So I'm going to go ahead and start the YouTube highlight from right here, and you will be able to find it on my YouTube channel, which is linked below. Every Friday is a special guest interview. This Friday we're going to have Zoomkins from Blood Legion. It's another one of the guildies that's going to be a guest here. Try to keep it, a good variety of stuff. We've had wall hacks from TG and things like that. But I also want to let you guys get to know some of the people in the guild, some of the other people that we play with. That's a little bit of a priority. If you guys have suggestions of people outside the guilds or whatnot, I'm open to really whatever. Probably try to get a poll going at some point and to just let people vote on who they would want to see. But either way that goes, we'll take that as it comes. This week is Zoomkins, and I'm going to go ahead and add him on Skype, and we'll get this going. Okay. All right. I'm going to call him up. We'll have to adjust Skype a bit because of the volume levels. If you guys have any questions for him at any point, make sure you guys are writing the questions down, or either just keeping track of them. That way, whenever we get to a spot during the show, and you guys can ask him any questions that you want. Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just muted Mumble and stuff, and now I gotta mute your stream.
Okay, yeah, that way it's not like super reverb. Alright, I gotta play with the volume here because everybody's mic's a little bit different. Just go ahead.
Oh, check 1, 2.
There we go.
3.
Can you guys hear him good? Just let me know.
Can you hear me? Hi. I'll just keep talking so you can keep playing with sound levels. Hi. Hello, hello, hello.
We'll up a little bit more.
Can I hear?
It's saying you're quiet, so I'm gonna bump it up a little more. Alright, try it again.
Hello? Can you hear me now? Talking. Hi. How are you today? Am I louder? Lower? Louder? Higher?
Alright,
Starter?
they're saying
okay.
you're good. Okay, so
Okay.
got the volume levels good. You guys know how these usually work. We just start off. Obviously I know Dan. I've played with him for over a year now, and or Dan Zoomkins, whatever you guys want to refer to him as. I guess I know Dan. Or we use first names a lot in the guild and things like that. So if you guys hear me saying Dan, that's who I'm talking about. So we'll start it out just asking him some, questions so you guys can get to know him and things like that, and then we'll open it up to you guys being able to ask some questions and things like that. So we'll go ahead and kick this off. So if you just want to introduce yourself and just let people know a little bit about you and things like that.
Sure. How you guys doing? I am Zoomkins. I've been playing with Blood Legion for almost 3 years now, coming up in like a couple months now. I came in around the end of Ulduar, when the guild had a big purge because of Yogg 0. I've been playing Balanced Druid since late Burning Crusade as a main. I did play it all the way through Burning Crusade through progression, but I also played a rogue as a main. But I kind of switched on and off because balance back then was pretty fucking horrible. I've tried to stay really strong with the community during Wrath. I kind of dropped off somewhere, near Cataclysm. And I've been with Blood Legion ever since, and I really like the guild. It's gone through a lot of changes, and I'm here to stay.
Cool. Okay, so what did you play before you played your druid? I know you had a couple other characters.
Well, actually I only had one. I played a rogue in vanilla. I didn't do a lot of raiding in vanilla. I did a lot of GDKPs with Molten Core and stuff like that, and I didn't get big into raiding till Burning Crusade, where I did play my rogue, and I played all the way up into Sunwell, and I started playing my druid as a second main, as Resto. So, say through Sunwell progression, I killed Calicos on my Resto druid, I killed Brutalis on my rogue, vice versa. I would play whichever was needed for my guild. And I played in my past guilds where I was in Retrospect of Executus, which was like an offshoot from the Retrospect on Urison. I played in Utopia on Mugthal. Then I went to Simple Math of Anderhall, which is an amazing guild, and I still play with a lot of them today, in other games. And then Blood Legion contacted me, asked if I wanted to join because they wanted a Moonkin on the roster, and eventually I took them up on the offer.
Cool. So what about, what were some of the draws that made you switch from your road to playing a Moonkin? Because I know back when you made the switch, it wasn't quite as popular as it is now.
Yeah. The one thing that drew me to Moonkin was obviously the form. I loved the Moonkin form. It was pretty fucking amazing looking. But it was like a challenge to me. It was basically one of the worst like DPS specs in the game, and I wanted to see what I could do with it and what changes, I could help make it and evolve it into like a class. And I used to work with a lot of people in the community back then to help for what it is now. But it was really just the worst DPS. Like you were worse than an arcane mage now. You would just push one button. You would literally only hit Starfire back in Burning Crusade, and not even Moonfire till Glyphs came out, which started to change the whole basis of the game. So I really wanted to see what I could do with it to make it stronger and a more viable class in the game, compared to Rogue, which was pretty much just like, your best DPS all through that tier.
Right, being a pure DPS and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I mean, what were some of the like when you switched initially? I mean, was there ever any point where you were just like, man, I want to go back to playing my Rogue, or this isn't as fun as I thought it was going to be, or anything like that?
No, I loved every minute of it. The one thing though is that back then when everything was party buffs, you kind of had a role being a bad DPS, being a bad DPS spec, because you were able to give out buffs to people. So I would be put in, say, like back then the one-shot wonders with the Shadow Bolt Warlocks. I'd be put in a group with them to give them crit. I also offered the 2% miss rate with the Insect Swarm, and the hit rate with the Fairy Fire. Back then, Fairy Fire also gave the 3% hit, which was unique. So I used to have sort of a raid spot, and because I played my classes optimally as I could back then, that I kind of warranted it in the guilds, and they kind of wanted somebody that could pull their weight and bring these unique buffs.
Okay, so at what point do you think the Moonkin really evolved from being the raid buff niche and things like that to just being like, a viable DPS within raids? Do you remember, was there a specific turning point, or what?
Definitely. The turning point was pretty much Wrath of the Lich King. At the end of Burning Crusade, when they introduced glyphs, is when there started to become some sort of side of it, but you were still just like Moonfire, Starfire. But when they started to evolve the class with a new resource, which was the Eclipse, it kind of changed it from being just like a buff spec, sort of like a Shadow Priest or an Ellie Shaman, into sort of like a viable DPS class. Like I had stats I had to work towards. Multi-dotting became very effective with the Solar Eclipse, even back then, with AoE and the Lunar Eclipse. But there were still a lot of problems with the way Eclipse worked. Like it would be you would stack haste to get a crit buff, and then you would be crit capped, and then you'd stack crit to get a haste buff, which was Nature's Grace, used last 3 seconds, to become haste capped. So basically, you were just fucked with whatever stat you went, depending on what part of the fight you were in. So it was pretty ridiculous, and it evolved into what it is now, which is actually, it still needs work, but it's getting there.
Yeah. Well, what about, do you think, I don't know, the way that I kind of look at the game right now, I mean, obviously you're never going to have a perfect balance in something that is, as complex as what WoW is, with as many classes and things like that. But, what are some of the things that you would like to see them adjust going forward into Misc, like specifically from a balanced druid point of view?
You mean like as in abilities or something? Because I could list off a bunch that I have on the top of my head that I've been talking to people with. Like right now, Wild Mushrooms, great idea. It looks cool. The implementation is annoying and arduous. You have to put down 3 mushrooms. After you put down the 3 mushrooms, you detonate, which is off the GCD. So it's like an AoE that has, it used to be a 3-yard radius. Now, I don't know what guy or what developer thought in the beginning a 3-yard radius for an AoE was a good idea, but it wasn't. So they moved it up to 6 yards, and that helped a little bit. But having to put down 3 mushrooms that are stationary with a 6-yard blast radius, while all the tank mechanics for AoE adds, you need to move them, is pretty much annoying.
Yeah.
Especially with the slow as well. So like if they could, kind of my idea was if they could say, people use Ice Trap for slows, people use a lot of things that are just you put down once or you activate. say they could balance around the damage between one mushroom and maybe increase the radius so that you're only putting it down once and detonating would be a lot more useful, I would say, for PvE. I don't know about PvP, but I think that would make a gigantic difference in the terms of use instead of having to use like 4 seconds worth or 5 seconds worth of GCDs just to do one AoE, when other classes just have to push like Mind Seer and then they start AoEing.
Yeah.
The prep time's annoying and horrible.
Well, outside of mushrooms, I mean, like, what about specifically in like class design, or not really necessarily abilities? Do you think that the way that your class handles stats, and I mean, like you mentioned initially going into Cataclysm, there was the haste versus crit debate and things like that, but it's since been somewhat smoothed out. I mean, do you think that they can? You think it needs a complete overhaul, or do you like the way the whole Eclipse system works now? As it
No,
is?
they definitely changing it from before, where it was a buff that you had to activate by using a stat like crit or whatnot. It was kind of bad. It worked out, but now they actually, I think they really found a balance on a mechanic they can continue to expand on, which is the resource bar, where you gather resource, you use the resource, and it's buffed by mastery. So it gives you a choice of, do I want to increase my mastery, haste? But what they kind of left out is you really have no use for crit. I know that's kind of like, you know, complaining a little bit, I would say, not having a specific use for every single stat, but right now crit is pretty much thrown under the rug. It's not really something we have to balance in, it's just kind of there, and I either use it or I don't. The Nature's Grace system, kind of now, it works alright, but they kind of fix that in the sense where as you leave Eclipse, your dot's going to be extended again. So, I mean, they've come up with a lot of different changes. The only problem I have now, though, is that they really hate, I mean, for people that play Moonkin or Boomkin, when you stay in Solar Eclipse, both your buffs are dotted, and we call that Solar Cleave, for people who don't know. And that's where you have your Mastery buffed up a bit, and when you're in Eclipse, you have buffed, like, say, 40-50% damage on an ability, and that would be both your Insect Swarm and Moonfire. So you stay in Solar Eclipse, and you just start dotting everything, and they're trying to break that in Mist of Pandarian by taking away one of our dots, which is Insect Swarm, as a damaging dot, and they're trying to make it a single target buff, where the target you have it on will increase your casting direct damage on, which is kind of just seems to me like they're taking away one of our viable roles right now in a raid, where we multi-dot, and that's kind of like our AoE, so we're really good in multi-target fights. And if they take that away, they need to compensate by, like buffing Hurricane, which I heard they have, but we need to see it in beta and see how much they've buffed it to be equivalent to other AoEs, because right now it has a pretty shitty coefficient.
Yeah. I know we got a Moonkin in our guild that uses Hurricane a lot, cannon fodder. I think he actually he would enjoy hearing that, buffing Hurricane. But let's see, what about specific abilities, just to try to, I guess,
Sure.
Finish up the Misc conversation. What are some of the new abilities that are coming out that you're excited about seeing, like Symbiosis, or I mean any of the Druid stuff? Are you?
Oh yeah, well, Symbiosis, I'm really excited about it, but I think it's going to be really hard for them to balance, and they might end up backtracking and taking away a lot of its uniqueness, because it's going to change the way a lot of fights work if you're going to be able to steal like certain mechanics, like things like Ice Block or Frost Novas, mirror images, just a lot of different, they're not going to be damaging abilities, but there'll be a lot of like slows and snares and stuff, and giving other classes like a battle res. It'll be, I don't know, I think their implementation's good, or like the thought about it is good, but the implementation's going to be extremely difficult, and it's not going to work out. Okay, let me pick up the Misc Pandarian talent tree so I can use their correct names.
Yeah. What
so people don't.
Real quick, while you're looking that up, there's probably a lot of people that are watching that actually aren't even familiar with some of the new MOP terms or whatnot. Could you just real quick explain Symbiosis and what the current design for the ability is going to be for Druids?
Okay, so in Misc Pandarian, Druids are going to have a ability called Symbiosis, which is going to kind of be like, I would say like a DI now, in the terms of you put it on somebody, you give them something, they give you something. So what it's going to do is it's going to swap abilities. So say if I put it on somebody, I will give them I guess I'll use the Warlock. I'll give them the ability Rejuve, so they'll have a heal. and if I take it from the Warlock, I'll get something back from them, one of their abilities. They haven't fleshed out who's giving what yet, but they've done some. Like, as a balanced druid, if I Symbiosis a mage, I'll get mirror images. So I'll be able to pop mirror images, pop like 3 little Moonkins sort of thing, and I'll give the mage something which they haven't fleshed out that really yet.
Yeah.
And it depends on the spec. So if a feral druid does it, they'll get a different ability that'll be useful for a feral druid.
Right.
And since there's going to be 4 specs on druids, which are the master race, then
yeah, they've got their work cut out for them as far as trying to balance
for
that.
each every class, that's a lot of combinations.
Yeah, I'd see that being a pretty big nightmare, to be honest, from a development standpoint. Like,
and the druids are going to have to memorize all those too, depending on who's in the raid.
Yeah, so that should be pretty interesting. I don't know, that's probably like the largest thing. You said you were looking up the rest of them. I mean, like any other like notable, like, oh my god, this looks really cool additions?
Oh, I had it before. I'd have to go look up the list again for the exact Symbiosis ones.
No, I mean like other abilities.
Talents that I'm excited for?
Yeah,
sure.
like the new ones.
If actually on my YouTube also, I kind of went over all the Misc Pandarian talents in depth and what I would pick going into Misc Pandarian, but I can go over some of them now. Like, a lot of them aren't really damaging abilities. Like, you saw how they changed the talent tree in Misc Pandarian. They take it to more like utility, and so you have choice. So it's not just like, well, I need to pick this because I need to do more damage, so I'm going to pick the damaging one. So some things like the first set of them, you have like a movement speed increase, you have a teleport forward, or a wild charge, which is kind of like, it gives the Moonkin basically like a disengage. So I mean, I can see a lot of utility in that. I know a lot of hunters use disengage now for like mechanics, like on Alakir, they could jump through the tornadoes and stuff like that, so that's definitely helpful. One that I'm really excited for, just to piss Rig off actually, is Ursul's Vortex, which is conjures a wind in a destined location and pulls all the enemies in 15 yards towards it. So I can just run into a pack of mobs, pull them all towards me, pull them all into me, and AoE them down where I want them. So that'll be a fun one, depending on where you move them around.
Yeah, especially with DK not having a charge, that'll be pretty. Probably counter that with that new AoE taunt they're doing, or AoE death grip shit. So you can pop that, and I can.
So I'll pull it, and you'll pull them back out.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, no, there seems to be like a ton of Misc stuff, and actually the YouTube video you've got, we'll put that in the description to the YouTube video I upload of this interview, and that way people can check out your YouTube video. And like, if you guys have questions or just want to see what Zoomkins thinks about the, every one of the Misc changes for druids and whatnot, like you said, he did a YouTube clip on it, so you guys will be able to find that in the video description, and then check out his video if you want as well.
But some of the ones too, one of the big ones that I saw like in a raid environment, sort of like say for progression, is Heart of the Wild is one of the biggest ones. That's going to be pretty much the choice of every druid in a raiding guild.
Which one is that one?
And it's one of the 90 talents, and what it does is it basically turns you into the ultimate class. You pretty much can do everything. So if I'm a balanced druid, what it'll do is it'll give me, like when I pop it, it's a 6-minute cooldown, so you only be able to use it once in a fight, and it lasts 45 seconds. So I'll get basically the powers of all the other, or the ability to be like decent at all the other specs. So I'll be able to be a cat druid, a bear druid. I'll literally be able to pop Heart of the Wild and taunt the boss for a little bit if I needed to, because it'll increase my armor by 95% in bear form. It gives me the hit rating and expertise. It uses a portion of my intellect into agility. And also my heals generate like lunar and solar eclipse energy. So if I need to pop out and heal, it won't penalize me as much on my damage to
oh my god,
energy.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing.
And the same thing for feral druids. 50% of their agility becomes intellect. They get armor like an extra armor while in bear form, and they get mana regeneration. So they can actually cast spells and have the intellect to make the spells actually do something, and they won't run from doing that. So basically, all the other specs get to be the other, like 2 or 3 specs.
Yeah,
or
I'd say that'd been a pretty clutch ability when shit's going south or whatever, like a tank dies or even a healer at that point. To be honest, I mean those are probably the biggest ones. I guess you could have some DPS viability, like if you're at the end of the fight and you're a healer and you need to help burn or something.
Say also, like, let's take an old fight for example. you're an ICC, Blood Queen flies up, melee can't hit it anymore, I can pop Heart of the Wild, and I can become a viable caster for a few
Yeah, yeah,
seconds and increase the damage output for the Titan Rage.
yeah. That's a good point. It's going to be really interesting to see how they're going to balance all this stuff. I can't imagine. And then on top of all that, I mean, on top of having to rebalance all the current classes, they're throwing in a new class, and that's going to have its own entire you know, set of obstacles to overcome and whatnot. So, to keep from getting too far down the Mists of Pandaria road and keep people up to date on the current status of things. A couple of things I wanted to go over about just basic information about you is I usually ask people, and we go down the list, just a quick rundown of some of the favorite things about current or previous content in your opinion. So what would
Sure,
be
throw them at me.
your favorite? Let's start with your favorite tier, rating wise.
Favorite rating tier. A lot of people say this one, but I would probably say Ulduar.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like the way, or a lot of raiders like the way the mechanics worked, where it was you would activate something into hard mode. The challenges seemed to be sort of within your grasp, but not really, by just killing this mob and it activates us a little bit harder, like how Freya had multiple difficulties of a hard mode. So I think it was pretty awesome, and it kind of rewarded you for doing them with extra loot, not just loot of a higher tier.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those fights were really, really challenging. I know a lot of guilds had a lot of trouble with them, and it wasn't like a tier that was finished in, a day or something.
Right. What just Ulduar specific, what would be your favorite boss encounter out of that?
Alright, I was thinking of this one today, because I remember you mentioned you were going to ask this question.
Yeah.
So, don't jump on me for saying this, but I would actually say Hodir.
Oh
I know
my
a lot
god,
of people don't say
what?
this. Okay, it's pretty much because when you really think about it,
Oh man.
I'm not saying how easy it could have ended up being after the nerfs, but its implementation to a dev sort of point of view was really awesome, to where you kind of pick the dudes you want to break out first to get whatever buffs, and it utilized both range, melee, and tanks, identifying the damage going into the raid with the healers. The tanks had to move the boss in specific places. Melee and range had to stand in the fires to put the buff on the boss, and the way that the buff came out that gave people extra damage or crit or whatnot was sort of random. So I kind of like that in a sense, where you're not just okay, well, we're on Blood Queen, this person has to get bit because they already do more damage than everyone else because of unbalanced classes, or I have to give this buff to this person because whatever happened. So the buff was random, so you couldn't pick who to really give it to aside, the first person, and it would kind of hit a couple people,
Right.
and people moved to certain camps and stuff like that.
So okay, aside from Hodir, what would we go with?
Aside from
Second favorite.
second favorite,
Yeah.
Miramon is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Hard mode Miramon.
It's more of a traditional answer, I guess.
Yeah.
The Hodir, that's definitely
Okay, when
interesting.
you really think about it, you get down to all the mechanics of Hodir,
Yeah.
and you really put it into a fight. Despite how they nerfed after the fact the timer to kill it in hard mode, it was pretty good.
What did
But,
you think
yeah.
about what did you think about it? I think it was Insidia at the time. They did the flower power. They went and spell stole that and did it with I forget how many mages it was.
Yeah, I mean, instead of actually trying out how to do the fight, they found out how to get around the fight.
Yeah.
Which
I
mean,
think that was, didn't they, I think once they did that, then they, which was the Ulduar boss that somebody killed it and then they buffed it afterwards? I forget which fight that was.
I can't.
It was one of the Ulduars. I don't remember either. So yeah, it was good stuff. I don't know. I would, yeah, Mimron though. That one was pretty awesome. But I see what you mean. I mean, it's got a little bit more complexity.
Someone says that was Hodir in chat.
Okay, yeah. I definitely remember some drama going down about the Hodir progression race and whatnot. So
I just liked it because I was capped only by threat on my damage, which
Yeah.
I topped out every time with the crit buff because they're so crit dependent as well.
what okay, favorite tier as far as aesthetics, what favorite looking tier on your character?
Favorite looking tier? Oh, you mean tier?
The
armor?
cosmetics, yeah. What's your favorite tier set armor there?
Tier set. I probably have to go tier 6. I know a lot of people say that, but I was torn back then, and now I have to be this ugly troll. this ugly orangekin. But back then, like when you were a Tauren, male Tauren, you were big and you looked pretty fucking sweet with tier 6. The shoulders were awesome, the helmet was awesome. But for the most part, I'm in Moonkin form, so I never really worried too much about it. But that's the tier I would pick. And what would come in second would probably be like tier 3 or tier 6. Or not tier 6, tier 7, which is the same coloring.
Right. What would be, to kind of, I guess, hop on the back of that, what would be your favorite, tier 3 wise, old school set of armor, like vanilla? Do you like the tier 2 or tier 3 better? Isn't tier 2 the one with the antlers and things like that?
Yeah. Tier 2 was pretty baller, but I think it's more the fact that just when you were, the way it felt back then when you wore it, you felt like a, like a baller character for the resto set and everything like that. Because there was really only one spec back then for druids, which was resto.
Mm-hmm.
And if you saw a druid in tier 2, I mean, you were pretty much like, yeah, he's legit. That's the guy you want healing your raid. Or that's the one dude who's allowed to put up rejuve.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Okay.
they couldn't have multiple hot stats things.
Yeah. I was like, I don't even think feral druids were that viable back then. That was back when I was super entry level. Didn't really raid hardcore at the time.
Feral druid to tank with was like Warden's Hammer or whatever, which was like a level 4, like 40 something epic that had armor on it.
Yeah.
So it would scale.
Yeah, it was back when bear form multiplied the armor on trinkets, weapons, all that stuff. So
yeah.
Let's see. Another question, I guess, regarding that. What would be your favorite boss fight? Like any current or previous content?
Current?
If you can't narrow it down to just one, just 2 or 3, whatever.
Well, I kind of, like, aside from say the Old War one, I kind of have one that's my favorite, pretty much because of how I killed it for the first time.
Yeah.
But it would be Felmist, and I've told this story before, but pretty much it was like my claim to awesomeness, and I have a little MS Paint I drew of it. But
You got a link?
it's what I used to, yeah, I can give you a link. It's what I used to get into simple maths, the guild I was in before this one.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is, people, if you're not familiar with Felmist, I'll kind of explain it really quick. So there's a phase 1 where you get into groups and whatnot. Someone gets encapsulated and does AoE damage to them, so you split up into multiple groups, whatever. I don't care about that phase. That's not the big money part. But there's a second phase, which is kind of like the Twin Dragons in Tier 11 now, where they do like a flame over like 3 different areas. Well, Felmist had 4 different areas, and if you got hit by the flame by Felmist, you would become MC'd, and you would become MC'd and die. So what happened is, the boss, there was really tight in rage timer at the time, during the content. The boss doesn't die when it's up in the air. So if it enrages, you can get it to 1% while it's flying through, so you have to survive the fire that goes back and forth. Then when she comes down, you hit her with one ability. So we have the enrage, we're about to kill it, she's at 0% in the air, we're just waiting for her to come down, everyone's on edge, freaking out. We're running as a group with the skeletons, trying to, one person's calling out. The person makes a bad call, everyone's just freaking out and all talking at once. I notice they make a bad call. My entire raid, every single person except for me, runs into the path, gets MC'd, and it's just me alone with the boss about to come down in the last flame. And I travel form, I run away from my entire raid of people chasing after me, MC'd, about to kill me, because I need to turn around and I need to wait for the boss to land and walk, because that's when she's able to be killed, to Moonfire her. So I'm travel forming all the way to the edge of the map. Thankfully, the boss runs faster than the MC'd people. The boss runs in range of me, and I turn around, move to the travel form edge of the map, Moonfire her, everyone dies, and I'm the last person standing, and that was my first kill for Felmist. It was pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. If you got a link, just
I'll
you
give you
can toss it in a stream
My last
chat.
guild used to require an MS Paint for applications in simple methods. It was pretty fun. Let's see. It's on my photo bucket that I don't use anymore.
So it's pretty epic. Any of those last man standing on any boss fights, those are always pretty good. Like
Yeah.
pretty sure most people saw that video of that shaman in ICC that like Oxen kills Lich King, while the rest of druids running around in the spirit room and at the bottom and whatnot.
I wish I like Fraps and stuff back then, but I had a shit computer.
Yeah. So
Let's see.
while you're looking for that, whenever you were in, actually, okay, if you already got it here, I'll just toss this in stream
That's my
chat.
Emmet's paint of my epic moment.
Okay, put them in here. Okay, there we go. That's the picture that Zoomkins was just referring to. Let's see here. It's Fell Mist with Zoomkins here. With the, I guess this is supposed to be the moonbeam.
Yeah, the moonbeam.
Oh,
It's Phil Mist. He's enraged. That's everybody else MC'd running around in pieces and whatever.
oh yeah, bad, laggy, bad. Yeah, good stuff. MS Paint pictures are always the best. But a couple more questions about just you and rating in general, and then we're going to open it up, and I guess we're going to let some of the stream people, ask any questions they have for you, and then maybe do one or two armory audits, and then yeah, go from there. So, what point did you decide that you wanted to be more serious about the game? I guess, or whenever you're obviously joining Blood Legion, but I mean, was that something that you had wanted to do from the beginning, and you were just trying to go, or is that something that you just kind of made your mind up and then joined Blood Legion to do?
It was actually sort of spur of the moment. It wasn't something I thought of to begin with. I really enjoyed my previous guild before. It was fun. I played casually. I worked. I still work now. I go to school. And it was just kind of like, I enjoyed where I was. And actually, Lollipop was the person that came to me because I had a lot of good parses back in my old guild, because that's all I worked on, because I didn't do hardcore raiding. So since I didn't go do hardcore raiding, progression was kind of like on the undertone. It was just like, well, what damage can I squeeze out for every fight? What sort of buffs can I get? Everything like that. So Lollipop came up to me. She says, "Hey, we've seen your parses. We've been looking for a Moonkin. We were wondering if you wanted to join. Come back to me, whatever." And then I actually refused because I liked where I was and I enjoyed the raiding, and I didn't know or think I was up for hardcore raiding. And then actually I thought about it for a few weeks. I talked to some of my friends, and I kind of like looked at the schedule. I'm like, I think I can actually do this. And looking at, sort of like the E-Fame people get, like the videos, and kind of like the epic feel of it, I thought like, if someone says, I have the ability to do it, I would probably like to give it a try. So I ended up going back to her and, doing a trial. And I came in on Old War Farm, and into my first progression was TOC.
Cool. Okay. So, last favorite question would be favorite achievement in the game. Like, what would you go with?
Favorite achievement in the game?
Yep.
If only I could remember achievements. I'm not an achievement person. I only do them in raids when we're doing them for the hell of it, because they're fun to do random shit in raids, but I don't know, I can't really think of a favorite one.
Well, I know you had I guess it wouldn't necessarily have to be an achievement. Well, I remember you had your head collection back when I joined the guild.
It's something like, okay,
yeah,
so
anything like that.
there isn't an achievement in the game for this, but back when my old account, which got banned, I can tell that story right after too, I used to collect quest items from bosses, like say, like Anexia, when you get her head, it says this item, right-click this item to, get the quest or whatever. I used to collect those, so I had level 60 Anexia, I had level 80 Anexia, I had the fucking Tempest Keep one, the Sphere, I had the ZG, Magtheridon, I had everything that was a raid boss head. I didn't bother with the quest ones. I was going to think, to expand it, I was going to go for the quest ones, like, later, but I was just sticking with raid boss kills. I had like an entire bag full of like heads with exclamation points on them, like after the fact.
Yeah.
But actually, I have a picture of that too. I'll give you a picture of that.
Okay. While he's looking for that, we're going to go ahead and yeah, we'll get to the ban story. I've got a couple other topics I want to go over, but we're going to break it up into segments here and let you guys know, or let you guys ask anything that you want to know from Zoomkins. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and throw them in stream chat, and then we'll pick out a few of them, and then after that we're gonna, let him do one or two Moonkin armory audits, just go over, gearing and things like that. Then if you can throw your Twitter link in chat, we'll just get them to put the armory audits on your Twitter.
Sure.
and then you can pick them out from there. So, let's see.
Actually, I can throw this in chat for you. That's a picture of my head collection and the bags in the bottom right.
Okay, let me check that out real quick.
I think the bottom right one was 1, 2. That was the key. I guess that one didn't really do much. But yeah, Nefarian. So if you can identify them all, it's pretty good.
What are the what is the thing that looks like the Karazhan thing? The eye?
The eye? That's a Cthulhu. Cthulhu's eye.
What is
That you're looking
the?
at.
No, not the top left. Like the like the violet
Oh,
eye
the
one.
violet
What
eye
are the
ones.
two?
Those are the ones for that you get from the new necks that you use to open up Malagos.
Oh yeah. Okay, gotcha. Holy cow, that's quite a
There's
bit.
a Blood Azul Djinn. There's the one for Major Domo. I think that's a leaf. There's the Emerald Dragon thing. The Nightmare thing.
That's
I forget
pretty
what it's
awesome.
called.
All right, so we go ahead and I got a couple questions in there already. This guy wants to know: can you discuss your approach to heroic spine progression on a Moonkin? What did you use for breaking grips, and how did you set up to maximize your damage on both the amalgs and the tendons?
Okay, so I didn't actually get to kill Heroic Spine on progression, but we did do attempts on it. So what we did on attempts, like, for a little while before we started to do class stack and whatnot, what you want to do is you want to be in solar with 3 mushrooms down in front of the plate before the plate pops. And you want to make sure that you're not dotting before the tendon comes up because you want Nature's Grace. So if you're in tier 12, you're going to get actually 1 cast into Lunar sometimes. But if you're in tier 13, which is actually higher damage for single target when you put up your insect swarm for spine progression, you're going to not get into Lunar Eclipse. So you're going to put down 3 mushrooms in front of the plate, you're going to get into Solar, you're just going to Starfire for extra damage and keep your stack up of, say, your Will of Unbinding. And then you're going to... the plate's going to pop, you need a targeting macro, you're going to Insect Swarm, Moonfire, then you're going to go pop your mushrooms, pop like your... well, you want to use Bottled Wishes as well. An on-use Trinket is going to do maximum damage for that because it's such a short window. So you're going to pop Bottled Wishes, then dot, then use your Solar all the way in, and try to Star Surge on cooldown. What I did for the first plate is because we didn't roll off our Amalgs, I would actually dot up all the Amalgs so I got more Star Surge procs during the plate because those 100k hits are going to, significantly increase the amount of damage you're doing in that small window. So I would dot up a bunch of targets before the plate popped, only on that one, not Bloods. If there's extra Amalgs, I'll dot up extra Amalgs, then get extra Star Surge procs and continue on like that. And then just make sure you're ready for Solar when it pops. A lot of people nowadays on progression, because it's kind of overkill, so I haven't really looked into trying it, people do a mastery build for it. Because it's such a short window of 23 seconds when the tendons pop, somewhere around that, I forget. Mm-hmm. You want to make use of your solar bar because you're only going to get 1 full solar bar and half of a non-eclipse bar. So you want to make full use of the solar bar that you have. So if you go a mastery build, you will actually output a significant amount of damage. And now with a regular haste build, I actually uploaded, I think I uploaded some stuff. I was doing 1 mil per pop with my gear, but I have a lot of gear, and that's with a regular haste build, but you could probably easily reach that with a mastery build.
Okay.
Alright, so...
If that guy still has questions about anything that he said, just go ahead and post them again. I gotta trim through some of these other ones. This is more of a... Dexter BL wants to know where you can purchase your shirt. He loves your shirt.
Does he? I wore this for work today. I literally came home a half an hour, 10 minutes before this interview came up. This button-down shirt. I don't remember where I bought it.
Okay.
Dexter.
I Killed Kenny 91 wants to know how long and when you were in Simple Math.
I joined Simple Math during the end of Sunwell. They were just on Muru, and I left them during Old War progression right before they killed Yogg, so I missed out on the Death's Demise title. Pretty much, I only didn't progress through my time in the game, I only didn't progress through like 2 fights because of changing guilds. So I didn't get to progress through Yogg 0. I did a second kill with it was like a second or third kill with Blood Legion, and I think the other one was either twins, I think, Eridar twins. But those are the only 2 fights I didn't actually get to do progression-wise through. I never really got carried to anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was with them for a couple of years.
Okay. Spazodin from Vigil wants to know, what do you do before a new raid tier starts, both inside and outside of game? It's a good question.
So like prep for it?
I guess, yeah.
Yep. A lot of times I'll see what time I can take off from work. I think that's what a lot of people do. I'll just see what time I can take off from work. I try to make sure I have like extra enchants in my bags, a lot of consumables, like a lot of people do. Before I used to have different glyphs and whatnot. I don't know, that's really it. I would make sure to check just a lot of the same prep people do. I don't do anything too crazy. I just try to keep relaxed a lot of times when I raid. I know a lot of people get hyped up and they get kind of crazy, and when things start to get close to a kill, they start to forget what they're doing and start shaking and stuff. But I just keep relaxed and put on some music and just play it as if like I had already beat it, you know. So I'm not too worried if it's gonna die or not. I'm just doing, and I try to focus on my job. I don't try, like Riggnaros has a lot of stress trying to raid lead, so he's focusing on the healer's job, tank's job. But for me, if I'm doing DPS, I try to focus on what I need to do and what I need to kill, and I try not to, you know, clutter up, mumble or whatnot, and just get my job done. So I have the confidence in other people that they're getting their job done. So if everyone's doing their own job correctly, you know, and we all trust each other, you know, a boss dies, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I go about it.
That's a good point, and I mean, yeah, it's he just wrote. I mean, he's one of the people that you don't really have to worry, or Zoomkins is one of the people you really don't have to worry about him getting a kill boner and making mistakes and things like that. And I mean, what he pointed out is just something that is a pretty common occurrence, I guess would be the best way to put it, in progression rating. Is, you know, once a boss hits sub 10%, you know, people start losing their minds, and something that's going perfectly smooth just starts falling apart, and that kind of gets better through or just having veteran raiders and things like that. So, let's see here. This guy wants to know, on Heroic Madness, is it worth it to dot up congealings in the last phase, or just Hurricane and Shrooms for spell weaving, I'm guessing?
Kill body. Alright, what I do, personally, is they come down a certain percent. You can see where they spawn. So right when you see the first thing on the ground, I put down my 3 mushrooms. I make sure I'm in solar. I don't dot, generally. I just mushroom, typhoon, and start hurricaning, because dots need, 2 seconds to 3 seconds to tick. So you're only going to hit with the spell weaving less times. The only time that's viable is on the regenerative bloods. You want them to all be like AoEing down each other when they're ready to die, which is kind of overkill now at the 10%. But for the congealings, I just do 3 mushrooms, typhoon, and then I try to hurricane spam.
Okay.
On their current locations.
The Bill 5 wants to know, what's the biggest problems Moonkins face going into Tier 13, and was going from Tier 12 to Tier 13 a significantly different experience? He asks because Tier 12 seemed to cater to multi-dotting a lot more.
Yeah, the biggest thing is because you were so detrimental on this Eclipse bar, and Tier 12, say, set bonus was, like, just that changed how you played the game. Like, I could switch from, say, because the whole thing is you're doing, like, burst AoE. You need to be in solar to do AoE, so what you're doing is you're just doing a rotation to get back into solar on most fights. So let's take Yorsaj, for example. Yorsaj with Tier 12, every time the new oozes come out, because you were getting so much energy from Tier 12, you could go from solar into lunar back into solar when like a black phase came out. Nowadays, sometimes you might not be able to make it, and you might be still casting once or twice while the black ads come out. And because that changed, it kind of changed the way you played and the way you planned out it was a whole different experience. The biggest questions I got were, should I switch from tier 12 to tier 13? Before they changed tier 13 like 2 or 3 times, the only value you got from it was just the stat increase. So I actually used tier 12 all through the progression of Dragon Soul, because the set bonus was such a huge difference on your play style and your damage compared to tier 13, which is just like, you can imagine it wasn't even there, and it just boosts your damage up a little bit. And I think Dragon Soul does cater a lot towards multi-dotting and multi-target for the most part. Ultraxian is pretty much your biggest kill buzz as a boss fight, because you are so dependent on Nature's Grace as a buff that every time you get Fading Light, Hour of Twilight, it knocks off, like say 1 or 2 seconds of Nature's Grace, which decreases your uptime of it, and that decreases the amount of times you get into an eclipse and your haste value, like overall. So that's pretty much why I'm kind of stuck on that.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll take a couple more of these, and then we're going to go over a couple more questions, and then see what we have time left after that. This one guy wants to know, do you use Wrath Calcs or Simcraft for your Sims?
I use Simcraft. Wrath Calcs is good. The only problem is, I mean, you can mess around with it. There's a lot you can do with it and input gear, but I like to do a lot of my own sort of calculations myself, and I would have to go around and change a lot more for Wrath Calcs and change a piece of gear or whatnot. So I usually use Simcraft because I like to do multiple, thousands and thousands of iterations of something. So I'll test out one thing, test out the encounter. I'll change around some of the syntax, and and that's generally just what I use. I mean, Wrath Calcs is a good option as well, but it's just not my choice personally.
Okay, and that one guy wanted to follow up on his question. He was you gave him the info about how to deal with tendons on spine. He was wanting to know how you dealt with corruptions for the burst on breaking grips.
For corruptions, you really don't have an option. You just need to help. Corruptions, when you're in your guild, the priority should be on other classes that have high bursts. You should have arcane mages helping and doing that. So really, you don't dot them up because you don't want to do extra damage to them, and I just pretty much use whatever I can, because if I'm already in solar waiting to do high tendon damage, I can't use my solar energy, or I can't do anything else. So I just use a Starfire, and you'll do abysmal damage to it, but that's what you have to do to get prepped for the tendon. You don't have a choice.
Okay. Then one thing that we had 3 more topics I wanted to go over, and then we'll try to wrap it up a bit, approaching the 1 hour mark, so I'll try to keep them around that. A couple people wanted to go over, I don't know how in detail you want to go over it or whatnot, but some people were just curious, what happened to your old Moonkin account and the ban and all that.
Yep. One second, just to answer this really quick. He says he uses shrooms at the moment. Shrooms is a viable option too, but the only problem is you don't want to be hitting bloods depending on where they are. So if it's a far one, you can use solar shrooms, but a lot of times, I'll just kind of go over this really quick.
Okay.
A lot of times I actually stay pre-solar, which I explain that a lot on my stream, which is staying just 1 cast out of solar, and I use my dot because dots are very high damage. So instead of just starfiring in solar eclipse waiting for the tendon to pop, I'll stay 1 cast away from solar and use wraths and dots to DPS AMELGs. So a lot of times I don't use shrooms because they're not buffed with solar. So I pre-solar, and shrooms do crap damage when you're pre-solared. But yeah, okay, so about my ban thing. It was a while back in near the end of tier 11. My old druid, I was full best in slot at tier 11. It's a druid I've been playing for years and years. And what happened at the time was, my basement had flooded, so there was a lot of work to be done on the house, so I wasn't playing for a few weeks. It was a lot of the snow melted in the area, and the water table was really high, so a lot of water was leaking in, so all the places around here, I live in Connecticut, northern Connecticut, we had feet and feet and feet of snow, and when it all melted because of the weather, everyone's basements around here were getting flooded and stuff like that, and it was a whole bunch of crap. It's the water table was really, really high. So there was a lot of work to be done, a lot of drywall to fix and stuff, so I didn't know what was going on with my account, and I eventually came back like, like a week or so after. I took a little break, and I couldn't log on to my account. I had to go take a look, and my account ended up being banned. The reason they gave me for my ban was association with other exploitative accounts, and the way I took that was, uh, what I took that was is that I guess like I had kind of owned the leatherworking market on Illidan. I pretty much would buy up uh, the entire like 20 pages of leather and resell it, and I would do a lot of that stuff very, very often. And I think that's kind of the reason why they banned me. I'm not entirely sure what they tried to like pin me on and whatnot, but that's the reason I got. And they gave me a runaround. I kept messaging them over and over and over again. I guess I could have called them up, but I tried to call them before. They wouldn't give me contact anybody. And then I just said, forget it. I'm not going to deal with this bullshit. And then I ended up saying I was going to quit. So I basically like took a break for a month. People were talking to me about coming back, and I ended up getting another account and just started to play again because, it's really something I wanted to do and I really enjoyed doing. And I really found I had a lot of extra time because WoW was in my time slot for a very long time. So I ended up coming back.
So what were some, to kind of go along with that, what were some of the, I mean, I'm sure there's some other people out there that's happened to it, but I mean, going from a character that you've, played the whole time and things like that, and then just having to, I mean, you got your new druid and whatnot. I mean, was it, what were some of the things that, I guess, pros and cons of having to go through all that?
I really only did play for rating, but I did like to kind of do achievements back then. I did like the fact that it recorded all my boss kills, how long I've been playing. I used to love all my random, stupid shit, like, my purple smoke flare pattern and a bunch of other, like, items that you can't get. My staff, my Argoth, not Argoth. Yeah, my Argoth staff, and I would put him out all the time. Just stuff like that, like quest items you couldn't get anymore. And I used to like all that bullshit. But now that I don't have it, I kind of care a lot less about achievements. I could really care less if I get one or don't get one. I don't do holiday events. I don't care. And I pretty much just play for rating now in Battlegrounds and whatnot. So it kind of like took away from the experience of having something that you could play for so long and kind of like working on it on like non-raid progression.
Mm-hmm.
And so like now that I don't have that, now I'll just like maybe I'll level another alt, or I'm doing the Iron Man challenge now, and I'll find other things to abide my time. Because I just don't feel the same connection with the extra stuff as I did before, because that happened.
Speaking of that, I'm glad you brought that up because I'd forgotten about it. Just go over and tell people about your Iron Man challenge. You can toss a link to your
Sure, I'm keeping a little blog
thing
right now.
Yeah, go over that.
I was actually, I mean, I don't really know how to use HTML and everything, and like a lot of these graphics and stuff like that. So to teach myself, I kind of made up a little event. And I was working on it, and I've been learning some stuff. And you guys know about the Iron Man challenges going on, Caparian, and being the first person doing it on a hunter. But since I'm a druid, I want to represent druids. I'm doing it now on a druid. I'm level 20 at the moment. I didn't level last night because I had some stuff to do. But I'm going to be leveling tonight after my sale runs and stuff, and probably getting to like 25. And then I'll probably push for like 30-something this weekend. But it's a lot of fun. It is very, very hard. I have 2 videos on there where I almost died. One was at an early level where I hit 20 HP because people were distracting me on Skype. Then another one, I ended up pulling like 5-6 mobs because they're humans and they run away when they get low. So the shit like ran out.
Which one's
the
the
level
one?
15 one.
No, the one where you get 20 HP. That's level 7.
Level 7, yeah. Because I thought like
we're gonna take a look at this. Hang on.
So I had the mace auto attacks. And I thought that was going to be the last hit, because the thing's almost dead, so I'm like, okay, fuck it, whatever. I right-click to auto-attack. I look away for a second, I'm talking to somebody. Then all of a sudden I turn back, and I'm like, fuck it, missed, because you have no hit rating. So I'm like, shit, I run away. Try to redo myself and get some distance and just Moonfire.
Alright,
but I didn't notice, would have easily died.
I'm going to play this for them. I got it open right here. I'm just going to hit play. Your level 7 Endeavor.
G, Razor, Moldgore, man, those fucking... Those coyotes. Through money I made a long time ago in Ice Crown that we're finally divvying out. Yeah, I was just talking to somebody. But, oh my god, I'm gonna die, I'm not paying attention. Oh my god, I almost died.
Oh, my gosh.
The bar, it looks like it's filled kind of.
Oh my god, I'm gonna die.
That's the default UI where it predicts your heal, sort of thing. Yeah. See, I get low, I'm not paying attention, I try to run away. I'm literally at 20 HP. That's like a
Oh man.
sort of a little green bar that shows what my rejuve tick's gonna be for the next tick.
Yeah.
But yeah, cannot pull. I thought the mace hit was gonna kill it. It's kind of funny. I cannot, but you actually have to really pay attention.
I want to watch the other one real quick since they're both pretty quick.
Especially with no mana. Yeah, they're just rips from the stream. Oh my god, he's gonna pull more, isn't he? No, come back. I get one down low, and as I move over, and I don't see it from like the side of my screen, it starts to run out of the room, and I switch to bear form, so I was on GCD, then it starts to pull more, so I have one entangled. I think for a second if I can take him on, and then I just try to book it. I tried to run, but I realized I was running into the island more. Dice was pull best in something like a month. I just kept going. Your mana pool is like used up by like 6 or 7 spells because you don't have any stats. I just have armor.
That's pretty classic. Yeah, and you had to go to swim, travel, or aquatic form. I'll get it right in a minute to get away. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. And you guys, he tossed a link in the chat if you guys want to keep up with how he's doing on the Iron Man competition thing. Just follow him there. One thing I want to mention that we're going to go over more whenever we're closing up is, I mean, Zoomkins is one of the main streamers that we have here on the BL Gaming team channel. So if you guys haven't watched any of his stream, make sure to go over there and check it out. He pretty much streams all the raids, either from a Moonkin. You guys are asking what all alts he has. He plays a Moonkin, a Mage, and he's also got a Death Knight. So you can click, you see where it says Riggnaros streaming World of Warcraft Cataclysm on BL Gaming. You can click that and go to the whole team page, and you can find his stream linked there, and make sure you guys are checking that out because he's streaming pretty much all the time. So one more thing that I had, actually, well, 2 more, but one's the closing question. So one more before that would be race to world first. You always hear a lot of people, and that kind of is asked regardless of what's going on. People always want to know like it's what you thought about it, how you enjoyed it, and the people have asked about it in chat. So yeah, just your thoughts real quick.
Race the world first. It was fun doing the filming. I loved doing the filming of it because I worked in like filming and stuff like that when I was younger. But they took a lot of footage, like a lot of good footage, and they just didn't implement it. Like they John and Zach, the 2 people that worked on it, they're from New York, so they're relatively close to me. And they do lighting for a lot of other major films, pretty much all like films you've seen in theaters. They do lighting for that. But the problem is it was kind of like their first project on their own, and it was really good. But what they wanted to grasp, like to show people, was like the people behind the game. They wanted to show like the people's lives, what they do, who they are, sort of thing. And people didn't react very well to that. I guess a lot of people wanted to see like how people game, or the game itself, or things like that. So I think that was kind of the disconnect. The Race the World First also, I didn't really like the title because that's not what the film was trying to represent. The film was trying to represent the people who play the game and what they go through to play it at a high level, not the competition between guilds and whatnot and whatever. They wanted to show people in high-end guilds. So I think they picked kind of a bad name for it because that's not what the film kind of showcased. It was supposed to showcase the people who play the game, not like a race in the game. But I don't know, I guess that was some sort of disconnect between what they had filmed and what people thought was going to be on it and what actually they did with it. And what scenes they cut out and added. Like everyone saw the whole argument between Eric and Lollipop, and that was like a small scene at the BlizzCon before, but they took so much other footage and stuff that I thought was a lot of fun. And you didn't even get to see me play tennis. I played tennis all through high school, and I had that on there, and you didn't get to see that.
Yeah, I thought they definitely could have added a lot. I mean, especially with how much footage they had, I was kind of surprised at how short it was. I thought they could have made it a little bit longer, and it would have been a lot better. But all in all, I mean, yeah, it was.
Also, I gave you my MVP award rig when you first joined, because I thought you were doing very well, and they did sort of a speech there, but they didn't include that either. I thought that would have been funny after the fact.
Yeah.
But I think since it was so far behind, it didn't get put in, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I just wish they would have made it longer. That was my main gripe with it, because like it was just getting to the point where I was like, oh, this is you got to know everybody and things like that, and then it's like, okay, now let's see how it plays out, and then it was like over. I was like, oh, okay, So, anyways, yeah, I was going to try to get some armory audits and stuff in here, but I mean, we actually filled the time with. I mean, those people had a lot of good questions and things like that, so. Zoomkins does have a Twitter. I mean, all this information is found on his stream page. So, I mean, instead of me trying to, tell you guys to go to just check out his stream page and.
Yeah, you don't have to go far for the rest of these questions or information. So,
yeah.
I'm around. I'm here. I'll probably be streaming my Firelands too tonight, as well as Iron Man Challenge. And actually, right after this, I'm going to be showcasing. I'm going to pick an indie game. I bought a bunch of indie games that are cheap from Steam. And I've just been kind of playing them and showcasing them, and you can kind of see it from like a seasoned gamer, like some of these other games, not just World of Warcraft. Some like variety I thought would be good.
Okay, so the last question I've got, and then we'll wrap it up, is just, for people, I know there's a lot of people that watch the stream or whatnot, is, they're up and coming or, rather new to the game or thinking about getting into the game, or they've been playing for a while and they've not found the way to push themselves. I mean, just what advice would you give to somebody that, what separates a good Moonkin from a great Moonkin? Just, I mean, from, a Moonkin POV or perspective.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking about that sort of question before, too. It's a question we used to ask to all of our trials, like, through our interview process, and what separates a good raider from a great raider. Because it doesn't matter if the class varies on DPS from, like, 1,000 to 1,100. It's just that 100, no matter how big it is, say like it could be a couple thousand DPS, that gap is what you need to make to become, like a good DPSer to a great DPSer, no matter how big or small. It could be like hitting one extra cast the entire fight, and those are the little things you need to work on. So like taking it from a Moonkin perspective, it's all about your dot management right now. Like your direct spells are there, they do the damage, but the thing that can make you a good Moonkin from a great Moonkin is really watching your dots and your Eclipse energy. The way they've kind of changed it now, if you have a staff where it double procs, it gives you extra Eclipse energy. So little things, little tips like that some of you might know, but the others might not know, is like if you use Star Surge as your last spell into an Eclipse and it double procs, the second Star Surge that's in flight will eat your Eclipse energy, because one will push you in, and the other one will eat the energy without giving you the buff damage. And those are some things you need to watch out for, as well as, say you're at 5 Lunar Energy, you can do a Starfire and an instant proc Star Surge at the same time, and they'll both get the buff damage, because it's when your cast is at the end of the cast, not when it hits the boss. So if you have something in flight and you get pushed into Eclipse and it's already in flight, it'll eat the energy without giving you the buff, which usually only happens in Solar or with Star Surges. So that's just things you need to keep in mind, as well as dot management during Eclipse and multi-target, like cleaving, like Solar cleaving, or dot cleaving if you're in Lunar, prioritizing Moonfire because it's the only buff dot, and Insect Swarm isn't buffed.
Cool.
But those are just some quick tips. Tribulations.
Yeah, hopefully all the Moonkins that are watching or whatnot that have the questions follow along with that and help some people out. But yeah, so that's where we're going to close off the questions. I want to obviously thank Dan for hopping on here and doing the special guest interview Friday stuff and all that. Again, this guy's streaming all the time. It's on the team channel. You guys need to make sure. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more questions that you guys can have do have for him and whatnot. You can either post them on his Twitter, or just hop in his stream, and just say, "Hey, man, what's up? These are my questions." And I mean, he's answering questions all the time in his stream. So, again, thanks for hopping on here. And
no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, cool.
And I am going to be playing Bastion Lectress. That's exactly what I picked for today.
Good stuff. All right, man. I'll catch you for the raid in a bit.
Okay.
See. Okay, so that is a wrap on that. Again, thank him for hopping on here. Enjoy having other from people from my guild hopping on here, and us doing it together. It's allowing you guys to get to know people and their personalities, not just their characters and things like that. So all in all, this special guest interview thing turned out pretty exceptional. This is one of the higher view counts on average that we've had up to date. So yeah, this will be uploaded on YouTube. If you guys want to go back, rewatch it, anything like that, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can, be alerted whenever that's uploaded. So I'm assuming there's quite a few new people watching this. If you're new here, please follow my channel. And these are going the special guest Fridays. It's obviously every Friday, and each day of the week we've got something going on, Sunday through Friday. The next thing we've got coming up is the LFR Challenge. It's going down Sunday at 5 p.m. Central, aka 1700. Whatever you need to be, whichever way you tell time. So if you have really good gear in your Horde side and you're on a U.S. realm, make sure to hop in here on this coming Sunday. It's every Sunday at 5 p.m. And you guys can go up against some of the best. It is Ultraxian only, and only the strong prevail. So don't come in there if you have weak Kung Fu. Your Kung Fu needs to be strong because the people in there do quite a lot of DPS. Anyways, next week, as far as the Q&A session, I do want to try to get a warrior in here. It'll be either Juvie, Troy, or Center. I may just throw up a poll and let you guys vote on it. I'll have a warrior one coming up. I know there's a lot of people asking for a warlock one again, even though we did Shinafei a few weeks back. We may get her and Shadows on here, or one of the two. We'll see how that goes. So I'll let you guys pick which warrior you want to deal with next Friday. I'll have a poll going at some point. Anyways, good show. I appreciate everybody showing up and asking the questions and just hanging out, getting to know some of the other people in the guild. All in all, good shit. We have raids going in less than an hour, so you guys make sure you hang around. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the special guest interview. I want to mention one thing before we just go and chill for a bit. This is something that Taxis wanted me to mention, and if I don't, he will probably be cross with me. We are doing Blood Legions is pushing the rated BG guild achievement. So if you want to do rated BGs and be part of Blood Legion for a few weeks, we're paying 1,000 gold per win, but you have to be in a guild group, and we've got like some systems in place. You get your own rank within the guild, get to set it up, and people that do exceptionally well, like setting them up and organizing them and things like that, you guys will be qualified for more rewards. I'll just go ahead and throw a link from the Illidan forums into stream chat. You guys can check this out. And, if you're interested, obviously you'll have to be on Illidan and, go from there. No requirement, anything. We just need wins. So I don't care if you have 0 MMR with 0 PvP gear. It doesn't matter. All right. So anyways, good show. Thanks for watching. I'm going to chill a little bit before the raid. We've got several raids coming up for you guys tonight. And this weekend will be filled with RBGs from, PvE heroes that have little to no PvP experience. But thanks again. I'm going to chill for a bit, run a few commercials since I haven't ran any for over an hour now, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show.